Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of From What I Gather, where today I'm putting together a recipe that is so iconic in home cookery, I'm sure you've already got a family recipe. Well, be that as it may, I'm still here to show you mine. It's a delicious venison or beef stroganoff that's super simple and fast to put together that everyone's gonna love. So let's get started. Let's take a look at the ingredients for the dish. I've got 1.5 pounds of lean venison, and this is a chunk of the round, which can be a little tough, but that's going to work perfectly in this recipe because I can just simmer it until this becomes as tender as I want it to be. Now, if I'm using beef, I really like to use cuts from the sirloin because they cook pretty quickly and have a lot of good flavor. If I have a little more time on my hands, I'll use a chunk from the chuck, and that's going to take a lot longer to become tender, but it's got a tremendous amount of flavor due to the fat marbling. And of course, whether you're using beef or venison, you can use ground meat as well. That's the way I always had it as a kid, and I still make it that way sometimes. So in addition to the meat, I've got 1 medium onion, 1.5 cups of beef broth, a couple of tablespoons of flour, a cup of sour cream, a handful of button mushrooms, or if they're in season, I'm always going to use chanterelles with this, and a teaspoon of a spicy brown or Dijon mustard. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is trim up my meat, get out any of the large pieces of silver skin. Some of the thinner silver skin is fine, but this big heavy duty white stuff, you do want to get rid of that because it's going to be pretty tough. Now, this is actually a little more meat than I need, so I'm going to cut myself a nice juicy steak right out of the middle of that before I go on. Yeah, and I'll just grill that up later for a delicious little treat. And now I'm going to cut this into some small cubes. Now the size you like yours is really up to you. You can use big old chunks. Like I said, you can use ground beef and any size in between. I like kind of a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch cube. So I'm just going to slice that into steaks. Man, those look good. I just want to eat them like that. But I got a recipe to do. Then I'll cut those into some sort of 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch cubes. Now I'm going to hit my cubed up meat with a nice pinch of salt. Kind of toss it around in there. Hit one more. And now I'll just set this aside while I get everything else ready. So let's get this going. A nice hot pan. That with some oil or some butter. And that gets to smoking just a little bit. Drop in that venison. Stir it around a little just to get it oily. And then leave it alone for a minute so we can get a nice sear on that one side of that. Ah, now that's a nice little sear. So, we'll stir this around. Try to get some more seared bits. You'll notice that a lot of liquid starts coming out, and that's going to slow down the searing, but just let it steam off of there and get a nice sizzle going, and you'll get a good sear on your meat. Now I've got some really good looking color on my meat. So, I'm going to go ahead and throw in these sliced mushrooms. And I think I've got about 1.5 cups. About the same volume, not the same weight, but about the same volume as the meat in mushrooms. And they're going to shrink down a whole lot. And I know a lot of people despise mushrooms. And you know what? If you do, just leave them out. It's going to be delicious either way. So I'm going to leave the heat up pretty high until I evaporate a lot of the liquid out of those mushrooms. Now, a lot of the moisture is out of the mushrooms. Some of them are getting some real nice color like that on them. So I'm going to put in the onion now. And I'm going to put in just about 1 cup of that diced onion. That was kind of a larger onion than I intended on, so I'll save this for something else. We'll put about 1 cup of that onion in there. Sweat those down for a few minutes until they start to get translucent. And we'll add a nice pinch of salt to that. until I'm still building a lot of nice color here on the bottom of the pan. It's nice and brown still. I don't want that going black on me, so if it starts getting too dark, I add some liquid. It's been a couple of minutes. My onions are starting to get nice and soft. So now I left this off of the ingredients up top, but I'm going to throw in a couple of tablespoons of butter, and that's going to help with the roux I'm about to build. So that butter is melting. Now I'm going to go in and put in 1, 2, 3 tablespoons of flour into there. And we'll just kind of stir that around. I've dropped the heat down to about medium now. And we just want to cook that flour a little bit. Then we'll add in the stock and kind of scrape away at that bottom if you like, but that's all about to come up when I put in the stock. Now I've just cooked that flour a little bit, just to take kind of the flouriness off of it, give it a nice roasty flavor. And I'm going to go in with my stock. It's cold stock, and I'm going to go in all at once so I don't cook that flour real fast and make little tiny lumps. Now I'll just scrape away at the deliciousness on the bottom of the pan and get this up to a boil. Now, in addition to thickening this sauce up a little, that flour in there is going to bind with the fat in the sour cream to give it a nice, consistent, and silky texture and appearance. I don't know if you've ever had a sauce that you've made with a dairy in it that comes out kind of speckly with a lot of white little speckles. They're not necessarily curdles or lumps, just kind of speckles of white in there. Those are just little bits of fat that are floating around in there. They don't have anything to grab onto. And that little bit of flour I put in here is going to give them something to bind with and make your sauce really beautiful and tasty. Alright, I got this up to temp. Now it's time to put in that sour cream. I got a good cup of it here. And we'll just stir that right in there. Now hit that with a good sprinkling of black pepper. I do like to go pretty generous with the black pepper in the stroganoff, but you use however much you like. I'm going to turn that on very low, get a nice low simmer going here, and now is the time to taste that and check it for seasoning. That's pretty good. But I remembered that I forgot to put in a teaspoon of that mustard. Oh yeah! Whoop. So I'll just stir that in there. And we'll try that again. Better. So I'm just going to cover that and let that simmer until that meat is as tender as I want it to be. And I'm estimating that's going to be about 30 minutes with this cut. Alright, it's been about 30 minutes. Now I want to give that a taste. Make sure I get a piece of that meat to see if it's as tender as I want it to be. That is good. Just needs a little bit more salt. A little bit of pepper. And that should just about do the trick. Now that the sauce is ready, I've got to decide what I want to put it on. And this is good on all kinds of potatoes, mashed potatoes, or boiled and sliced potatoes, toast, rice, but I'm going to use the classic egg noodles. So I've got some nice boiling water here. I'll add a big pinch or two of salt, and then I'll just throw in my noodles. And I will boil these until they're a couple of minutes away from being done, then strain them and add the sauce and let them finish cooking in the sauce. The noodles are just a couple of minutes away from being finished. I strained them, left a little bit of that water behind, and I got some extra if I need it, but I don't think I will. And now I'll just add this sauce in there. Not gonna need all of it. Then I'll throw in a big pinch of fresh chopped parsley for that little fresh pop. And now once that gets nice and hot and all bubbly, I will just cover that, turn the heat completely off, and let that sit for about 3 minutes, and it'll finish cooking just right. Oh yeah! And now right before I go to serve this, I'm gonna hit that with another dollop of some sour cream. Stir that in, and that will just give it a nice little rich finish. Now let's see how we did. Oh man, that is good. It's gravy on noodles, right? How you gonna go wrong? But really, the sauce is so meaty and rich, and it's got a nice acidic bite from the sour cream. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's no wonder that this is such a staple in so many households. And if you got fussy eaters that shy away from your wild game, they're gonna gobble this up, I guarantee you. Well, I really hope you try this, and I know you're gonna love it. And if you do, please like and subscribe for more. Budim Zdarovi. Thanks for watching.